The NLRB was created nearly a century ago. Congress made it the official policy of the U.S. government to strongly support collective bargaining rights for American workers across the country. So as the agency responsible for enforcing workers' rights on the job, the NLRB not only manages elections when workers come together to join a union, but also the agency investigates when corporations break the law by interfering when workers organize a union or with other rights we have to take collective action when we're addressing problems at work. And I personally know the value of the NLRB. My first career was as a journalist. I was fired from my job in 2008 because I organized with my co-workers to form a union at my newspaper, and my employer retaliated against me because of my work on that organizing campaign. My boss tried to take away my power, but we formed that union and sent a clear message that we weren't backing down, because there's nothing more powerful than workers united standing together. Yes. Right. Yeah. And I'm honored that since then I've been able to serve my union family by fighting for the rights of every American worker. Right now, workers across this country are organizing at lightning speed, and their courage and solidarity just blows me away. From Starbucks to Amazon, from Activision to Apple, workers are exercising their rights to form a union. 71% of Americans support unions. That's the highest that number has been in 6 decades. Tens of millions of Americans say they would join a union today if they could. And workers are fighting for their rights, like the rail workers who rallied on the side of this Capitol just hours ago. But meanwhile, corporations spend hundreds of millions of dollars every year on so-called union avoidance, which is really a fancy term for illegal violations intended to scare workers into voting no. These workers need an NLRB that can serve them, that has the resources and the staff to uphold the law. But for almost 10 years, the NLRB has been flat funded. Some politicians are so desperate to stop workers from organizing that they do everything they can to stop this needed funding. The funding crisis is so bad that the number of field staff at the NLRB, again, the folks who run those elections and conduct investigations, is down 50% since 2002. And now the NLRB is warning that they may have to furlough additional employees. This staffing and funding shortage means that workers around the country face critical delays to getting justice. And these delays can give anti-worker CEOs the edge they need to disrupt workers' momentum and successfully bust a union organizing drive. So whether it's Starbucks workers in Memphis, an Amazon warehouse workers in New York, or a Verizon retail worker in Seattle, the fact is that far too many workers are being fired for exercising their right to form a union and to demand the better working conditions that they need. So as a worker who was fired for organizing and as an officer of CWA, I'm calling on Congress to do the right thing and fully fund the NLRB. Now I'd like to introduce a real champion for working people, Congressman Bowman.
Peace and love, everyone. How y'all doing?
Good.
Make some noise! Fired up. So I want to start by giving a huge shout out to CWA. Thank you so much for organizing the work that you do. I also want to give a shout out to the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. I want to give a shout out to the Worker Power Coalition. Where you at? Noise, absolutely. Also want to shout out to my brother Ro Khanna, doing work in Congress, organizing for labor. Shout out to my sister Ocasio-Cortez, representing the Boogie Down Bronx. Shout out to my brother Andy Levin, who just walked in. And shout out to my sister Jedi Master Warrior Ilhan Omar, who disappeared out of thin air. I see her walk up, I don't know where she came from. Listen, the bottom line is this, we all know this. Unions have been under attack for decades. The cost of living has gone up, housing has gone up, healthcare has gone up, childcare has gone up, groceries have gone up, and wages have remained stagnant. And part of the reason why that is the case is because the NLRB has not been fully funded. We talked about the flat funding earlier. It's about time for Congress to step up, do its job, and fully fund the NLRB. We do not have a democracy without organized labor and workers earning a prevailing wage. We do not have a healthy society without workers earning a prevailing wage. You want to talk about issues of health care, public safety, education. It's all about taking care of our workers and making sure their quality of life is at the highest level it can be. That is our job.
That's right.
If we can invest almost $1 trillion in our military,
Yes.
we can take care of our workers in 1 year. Every year we spend almost $1 trillion on our military, on weapons manufacturing. But we cannot take care of our workers. And I hear these stories every day in my district. People are struggling to live, to survive, and there's no way that they can thrive if they're not earning a prevailing wage. And I'm here standing shoulder to shoulder with workers at Amazon. Please keep it up. Workers at UPS, keep it up. Workers at Starbucks, keep it up. Teachers across the country, keep it up. We are with you here in Congress, and it doesn't matter if the Republicans are going to, quote unquote, gain power in the House. We are still going to organize. We are still going to fight. We are still going to do what needs to be done. We are not upholding the ideals of our Constitution if we do not take care of our workers. We're faking the funk. We are frauds. What the hell are we doing here if we are not taking care of working class people? So I am proud to introduce my sister from the boogie down Bronx. Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, a fighter for workers even before she got to Congress. Come on up here, sister.
Thank you so much, Representative Bowman. Thank you to all of our organizers and our activists that are here today, and both aren't here today, but here in this fight. You know, Representative Bowman said it all. The NLRB hasn't received a budget increase in 9 years. And that was already underfunded. And that amounts to a 25% cut in their budget by not having that increase in 9 years. In order for us to achieve a healthy, vibrant, and strong economic democracy, we need to have fully resourced fighting NLRB in the United States of America. That is just a precondition. Because as we have a wave of workers experiencing an elevation in consciousness about our real power in this economy and our ability to organize ourselves in our workplaces, we need to have the NLRB to back them up. Whether it was what happened with the Amazon union elections in Bessemer, or what the NLRB has been able to do in New York City with Amazon's organizing with JFK8. When they are able to act, they are able to protect workers so much in their fight to organize and unionize their workplaces. But in a time when workers are organizing their workplaces now more than ever, we need to have resources, more resources to the NLRB now more than ever. So we need to have them to back it up. These cuts come while there has been a dramatic increase in labor activity. NLRB union petitions increased 58% in the first half of this year alone, 6 months. And likewise, unfair labor practices and those charges are up 18%. So let's get some of that funding proportionate to that activity to the NLRB. And lastly, I want to say how urgent this matter is. We need to get this done this Congress between now and December 31st. Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend that a Republican-controlled Congress is going to put this at the top of the list. All right? We need to treat this with the urgency that we have. We do not know. We're going to work to take back the House in 2024, but let's work with what we know that we have right now. So let's get it done. When we're passing these appropriation packages in the next 2 weeks, let's get a big boost for the NLRB in there, and that's going to feed this fight for the next and the coming years that we have ahead. So thank you all very much, and thank you everyone.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Williams. I'm General President of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, an organizing union. And I'm also the co-chair of the Worker Power Coalition with my sister, Sarah Steffens. I'm honored to be here today to talk about this issue on behalf of our members. Our union is a construction union that represents over 120,000 members, but organizes, the countless thousands, hundreds of thousands of immigrant workers and workers of color and people of color that are trying to reach the middle class that I've been so lucky and afforded to reach because of my union. I was the organizing director of our union for the last 12 years, and I know firsthand what workers are faced with when trying to organize. The NLRB needs to be modernized from top to bottom so that workers can meet the moment that we live in right now. We've seen it time and time again where workers put themselves out on the limb to support each other, and employers fire them for their organizing activities, remove them from their positions, and they risk everything. Those workers need an NLRB that can react quickly, that's fully funded, so that they can go back to work and that their rights are upheld in the workplace. This is a serious, serious issue that doesn't get talked enough in the mainstream, that our labor laws have been broken and they haven't been modernized the way they should be. If other countries can get it right, we certainly should be able to get it right.
That's right.
And we know why we don't. It's the corporate interests that control the other side of our government.
That's right.
I am scared to death of what a Congress led by Speaker McCarthy is going to look like next year, and that's why it is so important that we fund the NLRB this year.
That's right.
We're calling for $368 million. That's it. $368 million to help modernize, to help get our labor laws moving in the right direction. And you know what? While Speaker McCarthy can control the next 2 years, we'll be out organizing workers for the next 2 years. And we're going to come back 2 years later and we're going to pass the PRO Act.
That's right, yeah.
Because that'll truly modernize our labor laws in this country. And I'm honored to introduce one of our champions, Rep. Ilhan Omar. Thank you.
All right, is everybody feeling warm?
No.
All right, Minnesota, don't rub it in.
I'm like Minnesotan, so I'm like, I'm gonna be brave. I see Andy took off his jacket. It's like Midwest represent. Well, I am really grateful to be here with all of the organizers and the organizer legislators that have joined us today. I want to thank the Worker Power Coalition and the incredible group of unions, climate leaders, think tanks, and advocates who have come together on this issue. Our message is clear. Congress needs to fund the fight against union busting. From Starbucks workers in Minneapolis to Amazon workers in New York, we are seeing a massive rise in organizing and worker power at levels not seen in decades. We are also seeing big corporations and their CEOs routinely violate the law to bust unions and cling to their profit. The CEO of Starbucks is literally firing baristas who are organizing unions and is illegally stalling union negotiations. Apple is breaking the law, interrogating union leaders and forcing workers to attend anti-union speeches and restrict union literature in order to stop a union drive in New York. Tesla, you see I want to go to Tulsa right now. Tesla illegally restricted its workers from wearing pro-union apparel. It's just pathetic. We know all this because of a small independent agency called the National Labor Relations Board. It is the NLRB that holds these billionaire CEOs to account when they try to stand in the way of worker power. It is the NLRB that ensures workers' basic rights to freely associate and form a union is protected. But they are under threat from Republicans who want to weaken them and undermine their work. Jamaal Bowman and I and Andy and others know this as we sit on the Education and Labor Committee.
Despite the NLRB's viral mission, the board has received the same flood funding for 9 consecutive years now, effectively a 25% cut since 2010. Overall staffing levels have dropped by 39% over the past 2 decades, and field staffing has been cut in half. These cuts are happening while more people than ever are petitioning to form a union. So we stand with millions of workers across the country organizing for their rights. We stand with our NLRB staff who are holding corporations accountable and serving as watchdogs for these elections. And we will not stop fighting to ensure that they have the resources they need to hold these union busters accountable and make sure everyone's basic rights to organize and collectively bargain are protected. Thank you again for having me, and it is just an incredible honor to stand shoulder to shoulder with you all. Thank you.
Thank you to all of the organizers, CWA, the painters, all the labor groups, our revolution, my colleagues, Representative Bowman, Representative Levin, Representative Omar, and Representative Ocasio-Cortez. They've already said so much of what needs to be said. I'll make just a couple points. It's time we deliver for working families. Look, the reality is we passed the $15 wage out of the House. It didn't pass in the Senate. We passed the PRO Act out of the House. It didn't pass in the Senate. And so working families are wondering, what are we going to do in this Congress for them? This is the least we can do. And this is in our control. We can't blame the filibuster. This is in our negotiating control. We're talking about crumbs when it comes to the federal budget. Representative Bowman pointed out a $1 trillion defense budget almost. I mean, this is less than 1%. We're talking about $300 million. They wouldn't know where that went in the NDAA. They literally wouldn't. They wouldn't notice it. So this is about actually delivering, and it matters. All the folks who are out there standing with the wonderful Starbucks organizers, the Amazon organizers, the organizers at Tesla and other companies, they won't succeed if the NLRB isn't funded. I mean, this is not a technical issue. They need the NLRB to make sure there's not retaliation, to make sure their schedules aren't curtailed, to make sure that their vacation isn't cut. Organizing only succeeds if we have a funded NLRB. So this, in my view, has to be the highest priority in the omnibus budget, and we got to get it done. Thank you for being here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Andy Levin from Michigan. First things first, how about Argentina? Wow. All right, but how about Croatia? Croatia has 4 million people. That's less than Metro Detroit.
3.8.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Listen, I started organizing workers with SEIU in 1983. The NLRB had more staff in 1983 than it has today. It is outrageous. I want to talk as a union organizer. These union-busting companies, their union-busting attorneys, the 40 attorneys from Littler Mendelsohn who are beating up the Starbucks workers, and on across Amazon, and all these other workers who are bravely organizing these companies. They have a strategy. It's a very clear and purposeful strategy. Let's delay. Let's litigate. Let's relitigate. We have no chance of success. It doesn't matter. The point is to ground down the spirit of these workers. If the NLRB isn't funded, they have no way to keep their procedures moving expeditiously. They have no way to take this on. Brother Williams is right. Even with a fully funded NLRB, our labor laws are hopelessly broken. We've got to pass the PRO Act. We've got to transform the whole landscape so workers can organize a union if they damn well please in this country.
That's right.
But the least we could do right now is fully fund the National Labor Relations Board. We have it. So here's the way the board works. We call it the National Labor Relations Board, and the board is these 5 people, if they're fully, if they're fully staffed by the president, who make kind of judicial kind of decisions about cases. But the vast majority of the board works for the general counsel. The general counsel runs the regions and the field staff, and they're the ones who go out and run the elections and check out the unfair labor practices and so forth. We have the most dynamic general counsel of the National Labor Relations Board in my lifetime right now, Jennifer Abruzzo. And shame on us that we are tying one hand behind her back in just trying to carry out her mandate to try to back up the basic rights of these workers. Look, here's what the law says today. Starbucks. Were you amazed when the first one organized?
Yeah.
The next 10? The next 20? There's over 200 now, right? Yeah. This is phenomenal. Okay, but the law in this country says, does the employer have to negotiate a contract? Actually, not really. The law says they do, but what does it mean in practice? They have to show up. Ro, I come 5 times to bargain with you. I offer you 20% less than you ever made. I say that's a reasonable offer with a straight face, or I can laugh in your face if I want. And now I declare we're at impasse. And the law says I negotiated in good faith. That's about where we stand in this country. We've got a general counsel right now who wants to take on these absurd situations, and we had better give her the resources to do it. It's just a key moment for the soul of the Democratic Party. We are still here. We've still got to pass a budget. The government is not funded for the rest of this fiscal year, and the number one thing we need to do is to give this little energy, this little agency, the staff they need to carry out their mission. Thank you very much. Is that it? All right, questions, comments. Come on, yeah.
So, clearly small call. I have a question. Omnibus coming up. It seems increasingly clear that that's going to come over from the Senate with a high defense number, lower domestic number. Are you considering voting against an omnibus if it doesn't fully fund the NLRB and other Democratic priorities?
There's so much complex negotiations going on. You know, we have to see the package before we can decide. What we're here to do today is to say we demand that we put the money in. Believe me, I'm calling my 2 senators from Michigan, Debbie Stabenow and Gary Peters, saying fight like hell. I know these other Congress people from New York, Minnesota, and other states. In the House, we're pushing very hard on our side, and we're pushing our Senate colleagues to get it in there, and that's what we're doing today.
And I just want to be clear what we're asking for. So can you give that number again? What was it,
368.
368 million. It sounds like a big number. This is 0.006% of the defense budget. 0.006%. So it's not a big number. Completely doable.
Anybody else?
Cool. Peace
Thank
and love,
y'all.
Thank y'all. Can we take a little picture?